So I want to go with Vish in Japan, but if the crew could drop me out, I want to bring Kelly in actually for this call. I know that Kelly, after he deconverted and did some of his own kind of exploring, he landed on things like Buddhism and Hinduism and stuff like that. And so we have Vish from Japan, who is a former Hindu and has something that he wants to posit to the hosts. And so, crew, if you could just swap me for the great Kelly Laughlin, I would really appreciate it. I'm going to go ahead and bring up Vish. You are on with Kelly and Richard. Go ahead, Vish. How can we help? Oh, wait a minute. Whoops. Vish, you there?
Yeah.
Okay, great. Cool.
How you guys doing?
Very well. So you wanted to talk to us about the fact that you're a former Hindu and in religious indoctrination can cause real physical harm. The floor is yours. Take it away.
All right. Yeah. I mean, I was probably a Hindu until I was like 8 years old, but leaving the faith was a whole different thing. But like, I just don't think this is generally talked about. My family was Brahmin, which is I guess like one of the most Hindu types of Hindu. And when you're 6 years old as a man, you go through a rite of passage. And I think my sect had this super weird thing where they essentially strip you naked, shave your head, and then brand you with like hot irons. That was like really jarring for me as a 6-year-old. And I just wanted to talk about how that kind of physical harm on a human is super traumatizing.
Yeah, absolutely. Before you do, go into the details of that, can I just ask that, you're of Brahmin caste. Is where you grew up, was the caste system a kind of an implemented thing? Was it did you notice the caste system in society where you grew up?
So I actually grew up in America, but
okay.
We went to India for this specific ceremony, and where we did it was in a small village where my grandma lived, and it was super obvious there. Like our neighbor was actually another kid my age, and he was from I think one of the lower castes. I think it was called Lingayetra, and that might have been the religion, not the caste. But we were like essentially like not allowed to hang out with this kid just because he was lower caste.
The reason I ask that is because when we talk about, and we rarely talk about Hinduism, so I'm grateful you've called with it as a subject. But when we talk about Hinduism on the show, we tend to get a lot of Hindu apologists in the chat after the show in the comments section saying, well, the caste system isn't really a thing anymore. So I was just interested in your take on that. But I don't want to detract from your call, so please kind of share how that religious indoctrination has caused real harm for you.
Well, I think it was more. How do I say this? It made me lose trust in my parents, like that they would take me somewhere and have me stripped naked and branded with hot irons as a 6-year-old.
Yeah.
And that like did a real number on me.
Yeah. Kelly, do you want to jump in? You kind of came out of religion and looked at Hinduism.
I did. I looked at a lot of the Eastern religions, and I find that horrifying. That's totally horrifying. And as soon as you said that, I started thinking of like circumcision, within some Judeo-Christian religions, and I don't get why we have to mutilate children in that way either, because that's, to me, seems horrifying, even though I don't remember when it happened to me. But it still seems like a horrifying thing, and it makes me think why religion has these very physically abusive rituals that you have to go through to become a part of that religion. And it seems to me that it's like, oh, I've got to show my faith by hurting myself so bad that it makes it appear that this is the most important thing in my life. And I don't know, I don't get that. And I'm really sorry that you had to go through that. I really am.
Like,
go ahead.
sorry, go ahead.
No, you go ahead, please.
I don't know. It's more like, it's not like I was trying to show my faith, because like you're 6 years old, you don't know anything about anything. Your parents just like take you somewhere and have this done to you while someone's holding you down. that fucks you up.
How did you come out of Hinduism? Was that something you kind of went through as you grew older? Did your whole family come out of it together, or are the rest of your family still Hindu?
The rest of my family are still very much Hindu. I came out of it, honestly, like that experience was just one thing of many that kind of got me out of the faith. But like, because like what God would want that to happen to someone? But what actually made me an atheist, and this is going to sound really stupid, but it was when I found out that Santa Claus had the same handwriting as my mother.
You know what? That happened to me too. I figured that out as well. Hey, wait a minute. Santa Claus writes just like my mom.
It's amazing how to children the things, those two things, finding out Santa Claus was real and doubting religion, kind of happen at the same time, isn't it? It's almost like the only reason religious belief carries on is because it's perpetuated by grown-ups in society. It's really weird, that.
Yeah, and we take it more seriously than Santa Claus for some reason. You know, it's we have these two rituals that we do, one that is religious, one that is secular, and we don't. As we get older, we kind of drop the secular thought and we keep the religious thought. And shouldn't at that point maybe some of our secular ideas kind of take precedent? That seems like the best way to me, but. Que sera, we're stuck with the religious world right now.
Yeah, Vish, did you? Do you still have? And I know you said you've still got family who are religious. Do you still have family who are subject to this kind of abuse that's going off? And feel free not to answer if you don't want to answer that question.
You know, I think at this point, the Hindu males in my family are probably still doing this branding process, but it's generally by choice. They do it probably like 2 times a year. The last time I saw it, so I haven't been to India in about 20 years now. The last time I saw it happen was at my grandma's house, and I think I was like 11 or 12. And I was able to escape by, I saw my brother get grabbed, and they did it to him, and I jumped off the roof of the house onto the shed and into the house of my neighbor who was a lower caste, and I was like, yo, you got to hide me. So I think it's still happening. Children probably still unwilling, but again, everyone 20 years ago when I was in India was a child, so I don't know what it's like right now.
Yeah, it's really sad that, you know, religion, and it's not just Hinduism. You know, I talked extensively a few weeks ago in one of the after shows about women in Thai Buddhism who were very often done what's called, in inverted comma, in air quotes, sent to Bangkok, which is usually this happens when they're the brothers in the family are going to be ordained as priests, and they have the families throw these lavish ceremonies, and they can't afford them. They can't afford these ceremonies, a lot of these poor families, but they want to be seen to be kind of doing the right thing. So in these ceremonies, so they literally send the daughters away in exchange for money, so they can afford these ceremonies. It happens in a lot of religions, this kind of abuse that goes on, including in the West. By the way, we shouldn't pretend that this is not a Western thing that occurs as well. And, you know, this is one of the very, very real harms of religion. I would encourage you, if you know anybody who's going through these processes still, Vish, or indeed if you have a kind of trauma that you would like to talk through, as I did earlier, to call Recovering from Religion, because they are a great organization who I said earlier on in the show, you know, they really do take the time to listen and talk things through for people. So if that would be helpful for you, I would not hesitate to get in touch with the Recovering from Religion. They're really, really good for, you know, any kind of trauma that has been suffered from people. And with that, I am going to let you go. Thank you very much for your call. I do appreciate it. And Kelly, I very much appreciate you being up here as well with me. It's always
thanks.
a pleasure.
I appreciate it too. I wasn't expecting it, so that was great. But thanks for letting me be here, Jimmy and Richard. I will see you in the after show.